Good evening. My name is Brightops, and welcome back to Darkest Dungeon, namely the Dewpoint Isle Estate. We've selected our first two subscribers to have characters named after them. Miss Lana and Sinister7 will be joining our first expedition into the ruins. For those wondering, there are 7 areas that we can go adventuring in. We have the ruins,
of madness
the
and morbidity.
warrens, the weld,
Your work begins.
the cove, the courtyard, which is a part of the Crimson Court DLC, the farmstead, which is a part of the Color of Madness DLC, and the Darkness Dungeon itself, which I have never seen personally, and there's a very good chance that we will not be seeing in this playthrough anyway, depending on how things go. But right now we can only go into the ruins, just for a short scouting mission. And of which is we have to explore 90% of the rooms, and we have our rewards for doing so. Let's see, where is preferred positions? We will... just have them in the certain formations of heroes have a name. Like in this case, it will be Red Hook. If we were to set it up this way, it will be the usual suspects. Now, we're going into the ruins with a bit of a handicap, since Reynold here is currently stressed out and selfish. Afflictions like this are something of a problem. Especially because we are currently not in a position to really deal with it, so we're gonna have to bring him along. Now, not only does this mean that there is a good chance that if he gets too stressed out, he will have a heart attack and die, which as you can imagine is a problem. The fact that he's selfish also means he's going to be a selfish jerk to everyone in the party, which is going to stress them out. Much like how, having a selfish asshole in a group you're forced to work with can stress you out. Hopefully, we will survive this run into the ruins so that we can get the chapel up and running, so we can shove him in it and let God tell him to stop being a selfish dick to everyone. But before we go into the
cost
dungeon...
of preparedness, measured now in gold, later in blood.
But yes, before we go on our little expedition, we have to bring some supplies. Now, as we can see, certain heroes, as parts of their class, when they join an expedition, they bring along a free item with them. Such as our Crusader will bring along some holy water, and our Plague Doctor will bring with them anti-venom, which can be used to counter blights, poisons, and toxins. Now, every item in this game tends to have multiple uses, multiple different things they can be used for. Like, we could use the holy water to apply to a hero some increased resistances. However, as we go through the dungeon, it can also be used to help cleanse certain items, much like how anti-venom or any of these other items can do. However, the 3 pillars of our expedition are going to be, first we're going to bring a fair bit of torches, because light is an important mechanic in this game. The higher your light level is, the easier the dungeon will be. Likewise, the lower the light level becomes, the harder things become, and you'll get stressed easier, and the monsters you'll encounter will have a chance of being harder. The flip side of this is that the harder the difficulty, the greater the rewards you'll gain from it. However, because we will be struggling enough as is, because of our selfish Crusader, we're going to be trying to we're going to try to avoid low lights because it's going to be hard enough to stay alive as is. Unfortunately, we can only have torches only stack to 8. We will also need shovels, because shovels can be used to clear obstructions, which we will almost certainly run into. And trust me, it is better to have a shovel to dig through stuff than not. Because you can get through it without it, but it's stressful and it costs you light to do so. We will also need food. Food has two main purposes, in that firstly, it can be a healing item, which might not heal for much, but it can heal you for enough to get you off of death's door, which can be the difference between living and dying. However, as we go through the dungeon, the party will also start to get hungry, and will require a food check, which they will all eat a piece of food each to keep going. This will heal them, of course, but if you don't have food, starvation is a serious problem, especially in later dungeons, which can be longer. So we will be helping ourselves to a full stack of food of 12, as we can see, because this is a short dungeon, this will hopefully get us through it just fine. We will also take a skeleton key, because unlike the other items which cannot... a couple of skeletons, because unlike the other items which cannot be... it cannot be used for a party purpose. However, as we go through the dungeon, we will come across things that might be locked. And while you can open some items without the key, having a key will either A, let you bypass certain dangers, or help you get more rewards than you would otherwise get, which can be useful. Let's see, is there anything? We might also take some medicinal herbs. We might take a medicinal herb simply because it will help us. Much like the other items, it can be used to help cleanse certain things we might encounter, but it can also eliminate combat debuffs, which, considering we're on the hardest difficulty, we're probably gonna run into a bit. Alright, and with that, I think we're good to go. Now, different types of enemies will show up in different areas. In particular, the Crusader does really well in the ruins because the Crusader gets a natural bonus fighting against unholy creatures, like the undead. And the undead mainly hang around in the ruins, as we will see. Alright, we have to explore 90% of rooms. Let's do this. And of course, as we travel through, we can also pick up other things, such as a free torch. Wonderful. Alright, first room. We're just gonna use our free torch to boost the light a bit. Now because we have a high light rating, we have a better chance of surprising monsters. Effectively, we have an ambush round. Also, monsters have certain resistances. Like, for example, our bony friends here are immune to pretty much immune to bleed effects. Which makes sense, because they're skeletons, they don't have blood. However, blight works they are surprisingly weak to blight. Although in this case he managed to resist it. Huh. Considering they only have a 10% resist, that's actually pretty amazing. Alright, dazzling light on. Let's try and stun this one. Yep, stun, and it also... Ah, son of a... Yes, that's another thing about inflictions. It can, depending on the infliction, it can also have other effects. Such as the fact that he decided to do his own thing and not pass his turn.
Press this advantage. Give them no quarter.
Okay, Reynolds wants to be helpful this time. Hurrah!
Another abomination, cleansed from our lands.
Now, killing monsters will lower stress, but once you gain an affliction, it will linger. Which is unfortunate. An unlocked strongbox, along sits in the claustrophobic contents unknown. I have seen this before, and I know for a fact that the skeleton key does not work on it, simply because it's already unlocked. So we're just going to loot it.
If only treasure could staunch the flow of otherworldly corruption.
Okay, we've gained an item. The Healthstone. Items in Darkest Dungeon tend to have... They'll have a benefit, but they'll also have a negative. In this case, this Healthstone will increase maximum HP, but it'll also remove one speed. We're gonna throw this on Reynolds simply because he's already pretty damn slow as is. And since he's meant to be the tank of the party, him having a bit more health doesn't hurt. And
even the cold stone seems bent on preventing passage.
And this is where the shovel comes in handy. Ah yes, we also have... While we are traveling the hallways, you can encounter monster battles. Let's see. Now, here's... What was I gonna say? I can't remember. Ah, yes. As you can see, just in the bottom right corner here, it'll list the monster's skills. However, it will only reveal those skills as it uses them. So, for example, our cult's acolyte here, we have no idea what she can do just yet, so we don't know what her skills are. We will, however, be taking advantage of trying to kill her as quickly as possible, much like everything else here.
Maintain the offensive.
Ooh. Yeah, that's the thing about the cultist. Her attacks... Some monsters have abilities that they don't do a lot of damage up front, but they do stress damage instead, which can be quite nasty.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
I kind of wish you would you'd stop talking down to everyone, Reynolds, but whatever. Some things can't be helped. Unfortunately, since she is currently in a position where we can't actually reach her, we're going to clear some room by knocking off a corpse. As for why we would want to leave corpses standing, well, effectively, leaving a corpse, if you leave corpses behind, you will gain more loot at the end of it. So it's kind of it is very much a mixture of mixing greed with the needs of battle.
Confidence surges as the enemy crumbles. Seize this momentum. Push on to the task's end.
Let's move her back to her position so that she can do her healing stuff, which will be important in a round or two. Alright, something that can happen if you have highlights is you can go scouting, which will reveal things that are coming up on the various paths. It is, however, a chance for that happening, which did not pay out this time. Alright.
Finding the stuff is only the first test. Now it must be carried home. The light, the promise of safety.
Going. Let's see, that crossbowman does not look nice. So just having him be unable to do some damage benefits us all. And as I said at the beginning, Reynold is being a selfish jerk is stressing everyone out. So what's the D? Ah, yes. The debuff, of course, being that they have a higher chance of being critted. Now, things like blights
Slowly, gently. This is how a life is taken.
Things like blights and bleeds can stack. However, I do not think we will be needing it just to do that just yet, since that crossbowman will die.
Great is the weapon that cuts on its own.
Will die the moment his thing happens.
Continue the onslaught. Destroy them all.
Ah yes, along with the items we pick up, we can also come across treasures, which are worth money if we have them at the end of the dungeon. Which as you can imagine, is very helpful. And now we see one of the uses of holy water. We can choose an item, and it will give us a higher chance. In this case, it did some stress healing, and it healed normally, which is good to have. Ouch.
Carelessness will find no clemency in this place.
Okay, we did some scouting this time. Alright, as we can see, if we go this path, there will be a battle in this room, but there will only be a trap along the way. Which, because we know it's there, we have the chance to disarm it in advance. Each character has their own chance of doing it. In this case, we're going to go with Desmus, because, well, he can't beat a 90%. And because we knew that there was a trap in advance, that there was going to be a fight in advance, we could use the torches wisely. We also know from personal experience that this occultist needs to die. Because her stress damage and the fact that she messes with the formation is a problem. And of course the enemy can also have abilities that causes debuffs and abilities such as bleed. But as we showed before, this is, as we can see as it stacks, this will now do 8 damage per round. Which, while it is not a lethal shot, it is very much now.
The slow death. Unforeseen. Unforgiving. A trifling victory, but a victory nonetheless.
Now, as you can see how you have to read the names of these things, because as we saw with the original, it was the unlocked store box. This, however, is not. And thus, because we use that key, we get some extra money. And of course there's emeralds, which more than makes up for the cost of the key. And thus kleptomania comes into account. Reynold has decided to take that for himself. So, rather than actually getting these items, they have been wasted because he's pocketed them some gold and a key for himself. Yay. Now, because we've done a bit of scouting, we've been this way before, we have the benefit of we know when to spend our torches. Now, that isn't to say that encounters can't pop up at low lights at random, even in scouted areas. But whoa. This is, as I said, lower light means more reward. Now we have to decide if we want to keep something for the crests. See, crests and various other items such as the bust and the painting can be used to upgrade things back in the estate, which makes them rather important. In this case, we will be giving up a anti-venom because, well, we didn't pay anything for it, and honestly, the crests are going to be more useful. And here's our hunger check. So, because we have food, we will be doing that. Now, we could stop here. However, we have one more room to go. We know there's a fight there. And I'm willing to... And we've still got plenty of supplies to work with.
Darkness closes in, haunting the hearts of men.
We will just use up the rest of our torches. Get that little buff up because that will be important later. Yes, I'll reveal it in a minute. I'll reveal it next once the round starts, but... Okay, as we can see down, when you look down by their health on the right, you'll see this little bar. That will explain how many moves they've got. While most heroes and creatures will have one move around, bosses in particular can have multiple. It's part of what makes them so difficult. Okay, the Abolist will die when his turn starts. Wonderful. Still, we can hopefully get the Courier. Wonderful. Because while he might not do a lot of damage, that stress damage is bad.
A death by inches.
I will admit there are abilities that heroes can get, such as the Crusader, that can help heal stress damage, but not all classes get it, and Reynold here doesn't have those abilities. Let's see. Now I could do some healing, which will help us out, but in this case, removing the threat before it can attack might be is the better part of Vela.
This expedition at least promises success.
Let's see, since we're not gonna be using the torches for much, we can
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted, and purpose is made clear.
Let's see. Well, we've got plenty of food, so we're gonna do a little bit of healing just to make some room. And that's all. This expedition was a lot more successful than I thought it would be. And of course, as I said, the items you have at the end will get sold for to add to the money you gain from the end of it, as well as the rewards. This also counts if you're forced to abandon a mission. For example, if we could at any time have chosen to turn tail and leave without the job being done. In which case we would not gain the quest rewards, but any treasures that we had on us, we would get. And people have leveled up. Let's see what we got this time. Let's see, Reynold has gained Clumsy, but Musical, which means he can be healed by an inspiring tune, but better. Desmus has gained... I don't know how to pronounce that, but he's become obsessed with Sainthood. And Last Gasp, which means that, as a benefit, that if he is below 50% health, he will gain 1 speed. Miss Lana has become a Warren's adventurer somehow, despite the fact that we were traveling through the ruins, which means that if we were to put her in a party heading through the Warrens, she would be pretty resistant to the stress of it all, which is not something to overlook. And Sinister 7's become a Clove Explorer. I don't know how they've done this, because, as I said, they were in the Warrens, but this just means that if we send Sinister 7 to the Cove, she will have a higher chance of scouting ahead. And now we return to the town to not only see what classes we've...
I see something long absent in the sunken faces of passers-by. A glimmer of hope.
Let's see what announcements we've got. We've got the Abbey, and we've gotten the Tavern.
Fresh kegs, cards, and curtained rooms promise solace to the weary and broken alike.
So we've now got our stress-healing
The
buildings.
cobwebs have been dusted, the pews set straight. The Abbey calls to the faithful.
Yes, these are both our stress-healing buildings. We also have the Caretaker, who will occasionally use the places themselves. He will move around a bit. But yeah, since we know that Crusader, because of his God-fearing nature, he will only pray for stress relief, let's use some of our hard-earned crests and busts to improve...
A man in a robe, claiming communion with the divine.
To improve this area.
Madness.
To improve the area. But what the upgrades mean is, for example, it can improve the ability of how much stress you recover. It will reduce the amount of money it costs to actually do the thing. And it can also unlock a number of extra rooms, which can be handy for multiples. Especially because the Caretaker will take up a room himself. So we're going to stick Ranald in here. So he's going to be unavailable for the next mission because he is currently talking to God. Thankfully, when that talk to God will mean that he is no longer being a snarky bitch to everyone. So, yay. As for the other rooms, let's see. The Tavern also uses crests, but it also has portraits as its secondary thing. Well, we would send Dismas to the gambling hall. We would invest in the gambling hall, but Dismas is banned from there. And 7 is a bad gambler, which has now become a more advanced trait. Because of that little skull there, which basically means that a bit later on we will unlock the ability to remove negative traits or lock in positive ones. And that skull there just means that this bad gambler trait just became a lot harder more expensive to get rid of. But yeah, since one of our people can't gamble and the other one is bad at it, and of course we're not going to be investing in gambling. We might invest instead in the brothel.
All manner of diversion and dalliance await those who cross the threshold with coin in hand.
Yes, and I think we will give... Yes, we'll give Dismas a chance to unwind and blow off some steam. And while I can't upgrade the bar... 7 does look like they would benefit from getting a bit drunk. Miss Lana, however, seems pretty good, all things considered, and will probably be in good condition to go for the next one. But we now have to get some new heroes. Let's see, we have ourselves a bounty hunter, who likewise is not allowed to gamble, but is thick-blooded, which is resistant to blight, and pretty damn quick on the first round. Yeah. We will be taking you.
The thrill of the hunt. The promise of payment.
We also have a name for this one, since Serious Armor requested either a Crusader or a Bounty Hunter in advance, so we have Serious Armor, who will be with us from now on. Let's see, who else do we have? Let's have a look at our Plague Doctor. Let's see, Eagle Eye, which means that this one is particularly good at critting at range skills, such as their plague grenades and bombs. Unquiet Mind may not meditate while in town, so much like how these two are banned from gambling, this one can't meditate to relieve stress. But, yeah, we might pass that one over for now. Simply because, unless someone happens to want to claim them before the next episode, we'll skip them over for now. We also have the Occultist. The Occultist can be developed in several ways, but their primary ability they're used for is Wild Reconstruction, which is a healing ability. It is somewhat more of a gamble than, say, the healing ability of Miss Lana, since it can vary between healing nothing and 13. It also has a chance of causing a bleed stack to appear on the person you're healing, which can be ignored. This one also has weakening curse and vulnerability hex, which are both debuffs that can be thrown on enemies. And they have Hands from the Abyss, which, let's see, appears to be I don't think I've really seen this one before. But it appears to cause stun, but it also lowers the torchlight a bit. Let's see, abilities-wise, they have Quick Draw as well, so quick first round. Clutch Hitter, so if HP is below 50%, get more chance of a crit. He's anemic, which means he takes bleed stacks a lot easier, and he is terrified of the cove, so he gains stress there. I'm going to bring him along. I'm going to grab him simply because he is somewhat useful, actually.
To fight the abyss, one must know it.
And last but not least, the Hellion. Basically a barbarian fighter who's very good at hitting things with a giant freaking axe. Let's see, Photomania, so 20% less stress if torch is above 75%, which is not bad. Armor Tinkerer. We haven't unlocked the upgrade buildings yet, but when we do, this just means that when it comes time to upgrading her gear, she will be a lot cheaper to do, which is not a bad thing to have. Let's see, she is faithless, which means she will not pray or flagellate herself for stress relief. And she has scattering, which means she does less damage with ranged skills, which, let's see, melee. She doesn't have. All in all, this is a pretty damn good person to have.
Barbaric rage and unrelenting savagery make for a powerful ally.
Okay, I will give names to these two next time. But until then, my name is Brightops, and I look forward to hearing from you.